everybody, it's Pam from Go Retro. Thanks for watching. I apologize, it's been a long time since I've had a video on my YouTube channel. If you've been visiting the blog, then you know I kind of took a break from it for a while. I needed to restore my creative juices. I do have a new template on there, a new layout. I really love it. So I've been focusing on my freelance writing career and building my portfolio and really thinking about what I want to do for the next phase of my career. So that's why I've been taking a break. Hopefully this will be the start of some new videos coming up. But in today's video, I just wanted to say a few words about my all-time favorite retro idol / entertainer. And if you've been reading Go Retro for a few years now, you could probably guess who that is. And it is the one and only Bobby Darin. And I just adore him, and I feel that he's kind of been forgotten, even in the retro world, probably because he died so young. He was only 37 when he passed away in 1973. Today would have been his 81st birthday, which is why I really wanted to get a video made, just kind of my thoughts on him and why I love him and admire him so much. Why we should keep him remembered and his music legacy, and actually his whole entire legacy, everything he accomplished, remembered. Well, for starters, Bobby Darin was very driven, very ambitious, and once he set his mind to accomplishing something, there was no stopping him. And this started when he was a child. He came down with rheumatic fever. I think he had it 3 times during his childhood. That is a strain of, it's related to strep throat. It actually comes from the strep throat bacteria. And back in the 30s and 40s, as you know, they didn't have antibiotics. There was no such thing as penicillin. And poor Bobby came down with this 3 times, and it did a number to his heart. One of the lasting effects of having rheumatic fever is that it can really damage your heart valves. And that's what happened to him. And, the amazing thing is, all throughout his career, if you even just go on YouTube and look up a performance of his, I don't care whether it's from his TV show in the early 70s before he passed away, or if it's earlier in his career when he was doing the Copacabana and touring. He had so much energy and so much enthusiasm and zest on the stage, even in his voice. Like, one of the reasons I love listening to his music is because you can hear him smiling. You can hear his emotions through his music, anything that he recorded. And yet he would be going backstage and he'd be sucking on an oxygen tank to get him through a performance. He never wanted to let his audiences down. The public had no clue at the time this was going on. Only those that were close to him knew the extent of his health condition. And, it's just one of the many reasons why I just admire him so much. Now, I'm kind of going through a transitional part of my life, transitional part of my career. And I've really been revisiting a lot of his music because it inspires me. And he just inspires me to keep moving forward, to always have a positive mindset, to take any setbacks in life with stride and, just keep focusing on your dreams and keep going. When Bobby first started out in the music industry, as you probably know, his first big hit was Splish Splash. And he wrote that song in like 10 or 15 minutes. And people loved it. But the thing was, he was intuitive enough at the time to know that if he had stayed with that kind of genre, catering to the teeny bopper, bubblegum chewing crowd, that he would have been a forgotten name in 1 or 2 years. There were a lot of other guys out there at the same time, like Bobby Rydell and Fabian, and of course we had Elvis, and Elvis was an exception because Elvis pretty much stayed famous right up until the time he passed away. But Bobby knew that staying in that kind of genre and being that kind of singer, he wasn't going to get anywhere with it. He would have been forgotten. And he wanted everyone to know who he was. He wanted to reach all demographics, all age groups with his audiences. And that's why he recorded Mac the Knife. And the rest, as they say in showbiz, is history. Because Mac the Knife turned out to be the biggest selling record of 1959. And at least I think it did, or at least it's in the top 5, certainly. And, Dick Clark thought he was crazy at the time. The record producers thought he was nuts. Why are you doing this? But he knew what he was doing. He went to see the Threepenny Opera, which is a German opera. And guys, if you have a chance to look up the German version of Mac the Knife, I highly recommend it. It's pretty entertaining to listen to it sung in German. No offense to the Germans, I love the Germans, okay? But it's just kind of funny hearing it in that language and the tempo. But, he loved the song and he decided, I'm going to do a big band swing version of it. It's going to it's going to appeal to a wide variety of people. And that's exactly what happened. He recorded every genre of music. He loved music. He loved playing instruments. The man could play any instruments, drums, the trumpet, guitar. He wrote hundreds of songs. He even wrote instrumentals. There's an instrumental of his that's used in the movie Come September, which was the first movie that he made. And that was the movie, of course, you probably know he met Sandra Dee on the set of that movie. And she couldn't stand him at first, but then, he persisted. He knew he was going to marry her, and he won her over, and she fell head over heels for him. And even after they got divorced, according to, there's a really awesome book called Dream Lovers, The Magnificent Shattered Lives of Bobby Darin and Sandra Dee that their son Bobby Darin wrote. I highly recommend it, even if you're not a Bobby Darin and Sandra Dee fan. Just like it really covers like a lot of aspects of the music industry of the 60s and 70s. And it's a fascinating book because their son did not sugarcoat anything about his parents. He talks about the good, the bad, and the ugly, the issues that the both of them brought to their marriage and the struggles that they had. And, it wasn't, of course, a happy Hollywood marriage as portrayed in the public all of the time. They had their fights and they had their issues. And Bobby got very jealous of Sandra Dee because she made a movie with Bill Bixby, of all people, and he thought that she was having an affair with Bill Bixby, and that's actually what caused the divorce. But according to their son and in the book, even after they got divorced, they still remained in love, and he would still spend nights over Sandra Dee's house, and he had a very close relationship with their son growing up. And Connie Francis actually has an autobiography coming out later this year, and she gave an interview recently to People magazine, and she said there was no one else like Bobby Darin. She was crazy in love with him. She got married 4 times, and she said none of her 4 husbands could ever compare to Bobby Darin. There's just no one like him. He was so talented and just so funny, and his enthusiasm, his charisma, his joie de vivre. No one else could compare to it, okay? So getting back to his childhood, the one thing I think that really drove him from when he was very young was when he did have the rheumatic fever. He overheard his family doctor telling his family, even with the best of care, this boy will not live to be 16 years old, okay, or more than 16. Bobby was having none of that, okay, and he decided he was going to become a legend by the time he was 25. He wanted to play in the Copacabana. That was like his huge goal at the time. And he did it. And, he just became like a worldwide sensation by the time he was like 24 years old when, Mac the Knife came out. He loved all genres of music. He recorded an excellent folk album called Earthy, which is very entertaining to listen to. He recorded a country record. He recorded a cover of Ray Charles's music. He even did I consider it a rap song, Me and Mr. Horner from the late 1960s, which is great to listen to. And even his one and only Christmas record that he came out with, it is mostly gospel music. He had a healthy respect for all genres of music. It was just his whole world. He loved it. And really, how many singers do we know today that they can write music and they know how to play instruments? I mean, I've griped about this before on the blog, the state of pop music today, and personally that I think it really sucks. And, that's why I love listening to people like Bobby Darin, okay? And I have to say, if it hadn't been for Kevin Spacey's movie, and I know the critics panned it, and I did my own review of it on Go Retro not long ago because I did enjoy the movie. But if it hadn't been for Kevin Spacey and his movie, I don't think I would have gotten fascinated with Bobby Darin and decided to do my own research and discovered for myself what a remarkable man that he was. That movie made me start. I am a Kevin Spacey fan, but I was really big on him right after American Beauty came out, and I was following his career. When I found out he was making a movie about Bobby Darin, I didn't know anything about him either, other than the fact he did die young. I knew about some of his hits, but then I started doing research, and I was like, wow, this guy accomplished so much. I mean, he was a member of Mensa, which you have to be a genius to be considered Mensa level intelligence. Loved to play chess. He was an excellent chess player. That goes along with that. And he had his own TV variety show in the early 70s called the Bobby Darin Amusement Company. Okay? I mean, I could go on, but the other thing about him that I do want to mention that I admire so much, other than the fact that he was ambitious and he did focus on his goals, and my other blog that I write, I talk a lot about the law of attraction, self-love. I'm big on that stuff. I really feel like it's been turning my life around the past year. And I feel like Bobby kind of knew about that stuff a good 40 years before the rest of the world was aware of it. We hear a lot about spiritual retreats and meditation and going within and connecting with yourself and connecting with like your higher source if you believe in that. And Bobby kind of did that years before that became popular. And what facilitated that was he found out the truth about his family. He thought the woman that was his mother her name was Polly. She turned out to be his grandmother, and the woman that he thought was his sister, Nina, was actually his mom. So you can imagine, like, you're 32 years old and you're finding this out about your family, you'd be devastated too. But I think the thing that like really drove him over the edge with that whole situation was that Nina was sleeping around with different guys at the time, and she couldn't tell Bobby who his father was. She didn't have a clue. And I think it's very sad that even after his death, that no one has really come forward and said, I may be Bobby Darin's father. I find it strange that like no one saw him on TV and saw him in the news, and did anyone out there connect the dots and think that they may have been his father, unless his father passed away before he did? I don't know. I can't help but feeling whoever his father was, he had to be a very talented man. He must have been very intelligent, creative. Not that Bobby didn't get that from his mother's side of the family, but I just can't help but feel that this guy, whoever he was that was his dad, he must have had something special about him and passed it on to Bobby. And the other thing I admire about him is, let me get back to the whole spiritual retreat. So when he found out this happened, this was the truth about his family, he sold a lot of his possessions, he donated a lot of them, sold a few houses, got rid of some cars, and he even had a suitcase telephone, which was like, that was the high-tech gadget at the time. In the late 60s, he gave that away to a friend. And he put like his basic necessities in an Airstream trailer, and he hitched it to the Big Sur area of California. And he just went like inward. He did like a spiritual retreat. He wasn't alone. He was on the land of a good friend of his that had worked in the corporate world for many years and got fed up with it. Purchased all this land in Big Sur, and so Bobby wasn't alone, but he had like this solitude, this privacy, and he really went inward. And so he was without, like, stripped away the fame, the famous name of Bobby Darin and everything that came along with it. And he really got to know himself during this period. And probably that was like the best thing he could have done. And he ended up writing all of this amazing prolific music during that period. I think there's a CD called Songs of Big Sur or Songs from Big Sur. Highly recommended, because that has, like, he wrote every single song on that. And he came back to the stage and tried to play some of the stuff, and the reception wasn't so warm. His outward appearance had changed. He had a mustache. And as a matter, I wrote about this on Go Retro, but I think when Kevin Spacey played him in this part of Beyond the Sea, like, they really looked like each other, okay? But people weren't very accepting of this. They were expecting the tuxedo and the toupee and Mac the Knife. And at some point he met people in the middle, and so he had his own TV variety show, and he would sing some of the songs that he wrote, but then he also sang like his classic hits. And he went back to, shaved off the mustache and put the tux back on. And then people were kind of accepting him again, okay, right up until he passed away. But, I just feel like he was ahead of his time in so, so many ways. He had this real positive mindset and just this drive and ambition. And, I really admire him. I have people today that they say to me, well, you worked in marketing for 20 years. Why do you want to, like, try to transition into another career, and it's going to be hard? And I just don't have that mindset. I just believe I'm passionate about writing, and whatever I do next, I feel like it's going to be focused on some kind of writing job, okay? That's why I've been revisiting a lot of Bobby Darin's music and just reminding myself that, anything's possible and you can accomplish anything. He had a saying, and his saying was, it isn't true that you only live once. You can live a number of times if you know how. And we know exactly what, he was talking about. He just refused to be pigeonholed into one part of his career or one genre of music. He wanted to do it all. He wanted to accomplish it all. And he certainly did that. I think he did more in 37 years of living than most people do that live past 100, okay? I feel like I'm leaving out a couple of important things about his life. I hope I'm not. Those are the main reasons why I just adore Bobby Darin. And I just feel so happy when I listen to his music. It's very contagious. Like I said earlier, you could just hear the emotion in his voice. And I feel like that's kind of rare for a lot of singers today, too. They just don't bring that. But he truly was passionate about everything he did, his entire career, and he shouldn't be forgotten. So I want to end this by saying, I think in the next couple of years we will be hearing a lot more about Bobby Darin, because his son Dodd recently helped produce a stage musical in Australia, of all places, that was called Dream Lover. And this covered all of Bobby Darin's life, and probably covers more than the Kevin Spacey movie did. Okay, I know Dodd Darin was very pleased with Beyond the Sea, but then I think a few years later he was kind of hoping that someone would produce something that would show everything that his father accomplished and not leave anything out. And I think Dream Lover is a big step forward in that direction. It's got all his music in it. It's got the retro costumes and dancing. And even though the actor that they picked doesn't look anything like Bobby Darin, he got like rave reviews for his portrayal in the part. And so Dodd Darin, it was a huge smash and success in Australia. So Dodd Darin is hoping to bring this to Broadway into the United States, and I really hope he does, because you know that I'm going to be one of the first people that gets a ticket to see this if it comes to the Boston area, or I'll even travel to New York City and go see it, okay? I can't wait. I'm psyched. And so I really think, you're going to be hearing a little bit more about my idol in the next couple of years. No one could hold a candle to Bobby Darin. Even Sammy Davis Jr. once said Bobby was the one act that he did not want to have to follow on stage. And that, for one of the Rat Pack, and Sammy Davis Jr. is my favorite Rat Packer, by the way, but for that statement to be coming from someone like that. I think that speaks volumes about the talent that Bobby Darin had. Okay, so go check out, if you can, some of his performances and his, his charisma. I know I'm repeating myself, but just amazing to watch. Inspirational. Um, a really remarkable guy, ahead of his time. Friggin' amazing, in my opinion. Definitely someone that I admire. I grew up not admiring anybody. I had the usual crushes as a teenager on male celebrities. And then when I was like 19 or 20, I got into the Beatles, and I knew a lot of people that they idolized: John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison. And I love the Beatles, but until I found out about Bobby Darin, there wasn't anyone that really stood out to me, and he definitely stands out, okay? And even more so because I just feel he's very underrated. People just don't know everything that he accomplished in his short lifetime, okay? Well, that's it from me for today. I'm rambling on. If you haven't had a chance to check out the blog and the new template, the new layout I put up, check it out. I think it looks a lot better than the last one I had. I think I'll be posting more often to it, and I look forward to conversing with all you fine retro-loving people again real soon. Thanks for watching. Take care. Listen to some Bobby Darin. Think of him. It's his birthday. And I will talk to everyone again soon. Bye, everybody.